BioNTech hat die erste Zulassung für seinen Corona-Impfstoff bekommen, nämlich in China. Befeuert das die Kursrally weiter? Ist es bereits Zeit, jetzt eine Welt nach Covid, nach Corona zu denken? Das bespreche ich jetzt gleich mit Zhiqiang Shu von Berenberg Capital Markets. Er ist mir aus New York zugeschaltet. Zhiqiang, BioNTech got approval from China's authorities for its vaccine. 90% efficiency in late-stage trial. That's more than expected. But what does late stage mean? Are there any other approvals coming?
Yes, thanks for having me today. So according to the company, the phase 3 results is very encouraging. Based on the first interim analysis, the efficacy is over 90%. Late stage means that the company has conducted the trial in over 44,000 healthy volunteers participants, and that based on the data and also safety data, they could submit the data for a global health authorization, regulatory authorities for potential approval. According to the company, that this over 90% of efficacy definitely cleared the bar by the U.S. FDA, which defines 50% as a regulatory hurdle. According to the company, that probably this week they will have enough safety data, around 2 months follow-up for all the volunteers to receive the vaccine. With the efficacy and safety, they can submit the request for U.S. FDA, and we anticipate that a decision probably will be granted by December of this year. The same goes for other regions and countries. As far as I know, there are several countries that are accepting rolling submission, including regions like Europe. A specific timeline for those regions currently is unknown, but the company BioNTech told us that they expect the schedule to be relatively similar. So we have a hope that the vaccine could be distributed and approved for wider use before the end of this year.
Okay, FDA approval at the end of this year. Are there any differences between FDA's approvals and EU's approval?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the FDA approval here, we're talking about emergency use authorization, which is a designation for any sort of medical drugs or vaccines that are, first, they have to treat serious disease, and second, they have to show safety and efficacy, enough safety and efficacy profile. For COVID vaccines, such as this one from BioNTech, this definitely fits this profile. And FDA designates that they need to see the safety of at least 2 months of follow-up after participants have received 2 doses of the vaccine. And we anticipate this can be achieved this month, and the formal BLA or biologic license application will come later, which require a longer review process, probably around 6 months under the priority review. This is also part of FDA, but this shouldn't matter as long as the vaccine receives emergency use authorization, hopefully before the year ends. For Europe, it's the other approvals are conducted through European Medicines Agency or EMA. Currently, this submission is in a process called a rolling submission. The agency has started reviewing the preclinical data according to the company announced back in October, and the process really is the companies such as BioNTech, Pfizer, or Moderna, that they can submit data as they are available. They can submit the preclinical data, phase 1 data, as well as when the phase 3 data is complete, they can submit. This can significantly shorten the approval process and time for human use. The FDA process seems to be more structured because there are several EUA has been granted, including several ones that are therapeutic antibodies or antiviral drugs. The process for Europe is slightly unclear, but BioNTech expects, according to the company, based on the conversations with those agencies, they expect the timeline for both could be quite similar.
What do we know for the time being? Are there any side effects, or do we know how long an immunity will last?
This is a great question. So the answer is yes. There's always side effects. As long as you're taking a drug, there's always some side effects that are unwanted. And the regulators and medical experts' job is really to assess whether the clinical benefits, for instance, in this case, is to prevent COVID-19, whether that clinical benefits outweigh the side effects. As far as we can see from early trials, there are local reactions such as pain, redness, and swelling of the injection sites. There are also systemic effects such as fever, fatigue, and chill, and flu-like symptoms. These are the side effects that are normal and expected, and most of those are mild to moderate in severity and relatively transient, meaning they can resolve within a few days or few hours, and they don't require medication. What concerns people are side effects that are serious or unexpected. If those events occur, usually the independent data monitoring committee will announce to hold the trial from further progressing and investigate whether the cause of those agents could be related to the side effects. Luckily, so far, BioNTech's phase 3 trial, as well as other mRNA-based vaccine trials, this sort of serious event have not happened. This is for BioNTech's case, after injecting the vaccine into 44,000 participants. The phase 3 will continue to monitor the safety of the vaccine for up to 2 years based on the trial design. For the second question regarding the duration of protection, this is a really important question. The short answer to that is we don't know yet at this point. The virus was first identified from less than a year ago, and all the vaccines are developed after that, and it started to be tested in humans for around 67 months ago. So what we have seen so far is really probably 6 months data so far. I think only time will tell for certain of the duration of the protection, because all the subjects in the early trials as well as phase 3 trials will be followed for 2 years, as I just mentioned. Nevertheless, we think the robust T-cell responses observed in BioNTech vaccine is very encouraging and seems to suggest it can leave the memory T-cells, which is very important for the long-term protection. These memory T-cells probably can confer long-term protection, but this is really a scientific question, a medical question that needs to be answered as the trial progresses. The CEO of BioNTech said that he believes that the vaccine actually can be protective for at least 1 year.
How long will it take until this vaccine is finally available all over the world? A mass distribution seems to be challenging, not to mention a mass production. Is it already time to think a world after COVID?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think this is definitely very encouraging to have BioNTech's Pfizer's vaccine to show very good phase 3 results. Actually, just a moment ago this morning, Moderna also announced their vaccine has worked in the phase 3 based on the first interim analysis. The efficacy was very comparable, 94.5% the efficacy to prevent disease. So far, 2 vaccines in the phase 3 have read out positively. I think that definitely gives us hope at the end of the tunnel to start thinking about post-COVID world. However, with that said, I think the bottleneck here is to whether we can have sufficient manufacturing capacity and to supply the vaccine to the global population. As you mentioned, that the manufacturing potentially can be challenging, the transportation can be challenging. This is really because the mRNA vaccine is a new modality. Typically, for long-term storage, it does require -70 Celsius for storage. And then also for manufacturing capacity, as far as manufacturing capacity goes, BioNTech and Pfizer has announced that by the end of this year, they can have 50 million doses, which should be enough to vaccinate and protect 25 million people. This is definitely a small number considering the pandemic globally. And BioNTech and Pfizer are ramping up their massive production in Europe and the U.S., and they guided about 1.3 billion doses to produce by the end of 2021. And this number, we note that does not include potential additional 700 million doses per year from BioNTech's newly acquired Marburg facility in Germany. And then regarding the logistics, indeed, it's a very large product to establish the cold chain transportation and to iron out all the distribution logistics. Pfizer will be leading the transportation distribution logistics in the U.S. Seems like they have specialized supply providers to take charge, and they seem to be ready to go. And the companies also have developed a thermal shipper that will allow the storage for 10 days on its own. Moderna also announced this morning, according to the press release, that they can store the vaccine in the standard fridge temperatures for up to 30 days, which is also encouraging. And then also another German company that is in trials for their COVID-19 vaccine, CureVac. Also, they recently announced their stability data, which we think is also very encouraging, that they can the vaccine is stable at standard fridge temperature for as long as 3 months. So all these technology advancement and stability data point to the cost potentially will be lower in terms of the transportation and the storage than people have anticipated. So back to the second question about thinking about the post-COVID world, I think given the guidance from various companies that we at Berenberg think that starting from the second half of 2021, when we have sufficient amount of vaccines to be produced and distributed to the global population, we can start to feel a certain degree of normalcy, and assuming we have multiple vaccines approved and manufactured by then. Until then, probably we still have to wear masks and social distance from each other, and to protect the most vulnerable population to the COVID-19 virus.
You mentioned CureVac, and Moderna came up with good news this morning. China seems to be ready with an own vaccine, and Russia as well. What do you think? How close are these competitors of BioNTech and Pfizer to their own success?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So overall, I think it's encouraging to see multiple vaccine developers are actually actively advancing their own vaccines for COVID-19 to end this pandemic, and a lot of them, as you mentioned, that have shown very encouraging data. Overall, I think it's a good thing because we really don't have enough capacity to vaccinate everyone in the near term if we only have one or two. Moderna has reported positive data this morning. CureVac has reported positive phase 1 data along with other manufacturers. China, Russia have also reported their own vaccines to be quite effective. I think overall they appear to be safe and efficacious. I think it's positive, but we have to see the data. I hope all the vaccine manufacturers and government regulatory agencies to do the right thing to publish data, which is the standard research process. They should publish data in peer-reviewed journals, and this will be judged by experts, medical experts, and to ensure the vaccine is really safe. I think that's the paramount thing for global authority, the health authorities to do.
Mm-hmm. BioNTech's equity is being valued at $23 billion at the moment. It's around 4 times the amount in sales that the vaccine would bring next year. It's said to be 6.5 billion each company, Pfizer and BioNTech. BioNTech shares made 200% year to date. There's an old saying in Wall Street, buy the rumor that's seldom news. Is it time to sell Pfizer, as Pfizer's CEO did, and BioNTech, or is there an ongoing rally?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this question is very interesting. For Pfizer, I think I can't comment too much on my own. My colleagues in London actually cover the stock. They have their view on this topic, but I think overall, Pfizer's story is not just about COVID. It's actually more about pipeline, long-term growth, and return on R&D investment. For mid-cap biotech companies like BioNTech, like CureVac, I don't really agree with the statement that buy on the rumor and sell the news, simply because these stocks are relatively speculative overall. Biotech stocks are highly speculative by nature, and the valuation is in fact primarily driven by pipeline growth potential. If you ask if the valuation is rich relative to the beginning of this year, as you mentioned, 200% year to date, yes, I agree on that. But I do see the success of COVID-19 vaccine significantly de-risk the mRNA technology. I think mRNA technology is very powerful, and it's believed to deliver more innovative medicines for human diseases. Specifically for BioNTech, the pipeline is very broad. Preliminary data on several mRNA-based oncology drugs are very compelling, in my view, including several cancer vaccines for melanoma, head and neck cancer, breast cancer. The positive news here is really tells us that the mRNA, we probably are rushed into the mRNA world. I believe those mRNA-based assets will continue to drive substantial value for the company and the field enthusiasm for the stock, for BioNTech and CureVac and other mRNA-based companies.
Okay. What's your price target on BioNTech, and what's your favorite pick in the sector?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have a buy rating and a price target of $126 US. This valuation price target is based on a discounted cash flow risk adjusted by a weighted probability of success of pipeline assets. As I mentioned, beyond COVID-19 vaccine, BioNTech has a broad pipeline that is very compelling, and we think will continue to deliver. As far as my favorite picks in the biotech sector, I'm a Biotech-Analyst. Beyond BioNTech, I think CureVac, as mentioned, is a quite interesting company. It's also an mRNA-based company that has a COVID-19 vaccine, along with other types of drugs in development, such as a rabies vaccine and a cancer vaccine in development. The mRNA technology of CureVac is differentiated. They use an unmodified mRNA molecule instead of modified, which can potentially engage the innate immune system and mimic the natural viral infection process. The phase 1 data looks quite encouraging to us. Importantly, the vaccine is stable at the standard fridge temperature for up to 3 months. This can be translated into the cost reduction in manufacturing, logistics, and potentially market uptake. The phase 3 of this vaccine is about to start this year, and data is expected in the first quarter of 2021. and regulatory decision could come in the second quarter of 21. And other companies in my coverage, I think it's quite encouraging. A few other oncology companies, I think another one is Zhiqiang that we really like. It's a antibody drug conjugate company. We think the market underappreciated potential there. They also have a broad pipeline for cancer treatment. So those are my favorite stocks for the moment.
Okay. Zhiqiang, I thank you very much for this information. It was very, very interesting. Thank you very much to New York.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Ja, Zhiqiang Shu sagt, es wird nicht mehr lange dauern, bis auch die FDA in den USA die Genehmigung für BioNTechs Impfstoff erteilt. Er rechnet auch in diesem Jahr damit, vor allem weil es eine sozusagen Notfallverordnung in den USA dafür gibt. In der EU wird die Zulassung noch etwas länger dauern. Nichtsdestotrotz, die Forschung sieht sehr gut aus, die Effizienz ist ausgesprochen gut und er sagte auch, ja, es gibt Nebenwirkungen, sogar verschiedene und die sind aber erwartet worden. Wie lange die Immunität anhält, das weiß noch keiner. Herausforderungen werden sein, wie man die Produktion dann auch verteilt, denn man kann jetzt ungefähr 10 Tage lang das Medikament, den Impfstoff kühlen. Bei Moderna sogar 30 Tage lang. Es muss also schnell gehen. Nichtsdestotrotz, BioNTech sagt Zhiqiang Shu, das ist noch nicht das Ende der Rallye. Er hat ein Kursziel von $126. Auch CureVac gehört zu den Top-Picks in diesem Sektor und er glaubt nicht an diesen alten Spruch aus der Wall Street, dass man sagt, buy the rumor, sell the fact. Nein, er glaubt, dass es noch viel weiter geht und dass bis Jahresende, wenn die Zulassungen so klappen, die ersten 25 Millionen Menschen geimpft werden können.